Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Zach is Cinema. Yes, welcome home, everybody. Welcome back to Zach is Cinema. It's the place to be if you're lonely and have no one to talk to about these weird public domain horror slasher movies. You're welcome here. I'll listen to you. I know exactly what it is because I just saw it. Welcome to another movie review video from Zach is Cinema. Today we're going to be talking about Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare. The director and writer for this movie is Scott Jeffrey, which he actually portrayed Christopher Robin, I believe, in the second Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey movie. This movie we got Martin Portlock, Megan Placito, Kit Green, Charity Case, and Nicholas Woodson. The plot for this movie is following Wendy as she goes on a quest to find her brother Michael, who has been abducted by Peter Pan and Tinkerbell. You know, of course, this is our third installment now in the Twisted Childhood universe, which we're calling it now, the TCU, which is like the MCU. I see what you did there, guys. But honestly, I was somewhat kind of looking forward to this movie, like unironically. I don't know. I see a lot of people complaining online and everything about these movies that take advantage of the public domain laws. So when a character enters public domain, you can use it for whatever. So we saw it with our first Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey movie, then the second one, and now Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmares. Honestly, I really don't mind people taking advantage of that. I mean, I feel like that's more of an issue on the public domain laws than the people actually taking advantage of them. I don't know. If a character enters public domain, fuck it. Why not? Do something with it. I'm not excusing the horrible first movie, but still, you had the rights. I guess you kind of tried. So fuck it, keep doing it. And honestly, I feel like this Twisted Childhood universe is honestly not a bad idea. Using these public domain laws and then taking advantage of these childhood stories and fairy tales and twisting them with a horror edge. It's so easy to put that horror twist on them and makes them even creepier because we're watching these characters that we knew and loved from our childhood, like murder women and children now. I don't know. I kind of like the idea. I hated the first one. I hated how they started it off with that, but I was just kind of curious to check this out. I know they're leading up to like an Avengers type battle of the childhood ages, I guess, with a culmination of all these movies. So starting off with the positives for this movie, or the things that I personally enjoyed. Honestly, I think this is easily the best Twisted Childhood universe movie. I think it has the most fun with its premise. I think the characters they give you can at least somewhat sympathize with, and they're not a slog to watch on screen. They get a villain in this movie that actually has a personality, and he's able to talk throughout the movies. So we're already leagues above what they were doing with Winnie the Pooh. Personally, I think it felt like a mix of It, the Black Phone, and some of the Terrifier movies. And I think it takes elements from better movies, but I enjoyed seeing some of those elements in this movie. Another big positive for me here, which I think it makes this easily the best TCU movie, is that I feel like they actually try with the villain this time. It helps that he can talk like we were just talking about, but they also play around with some of that like Disney classic lore that I feel like we were kind of missing in our first two Winnie the Pooh movies. The second one fixed it a little bit, but that first one just didn't play around with it at all. So I'm glad to see they're actually trying here to fix some of their mistakes that they started off with. It plays around with some of the Peter Pan lore, for example, by having Peter inject pixie dust like he's using heroin. He uses his iconic blade that he has a couple of times, and he has the goal of taking children to Neverland in in this dark, twisted, horrific way. I think they're already leagues above their first two movies because they're taking the plot of this childhood story, this Disney classic movie, throwing it in that horror twist. Let's have Peter Pan here, but what if he was an evil child predator? And that's what they run with. So I think they utilize some of the lore here much better than our first two movies. So I'm not going to get into spoilers, so don't worry. I know everyone's careful around spoilers for this movie, but I do like what they do with Tinkerbell in this movie. They provide some like twists and reveals a little bit later on that I think do work. A little obvious, but still, I think it shows that they're trying to add something to the lore that they're building out. So I did personally enjoy what they did with Tinkerbell in this movie. Another positive here, I really did enjoy the third act. I think it's a lot of fun. It has some great pacing, and I think it's pretty brutal and intense. It's derivative, but they at least do it in an enjoyable way to me. Another positive I had here was this time I actually have characters like we touched on that you can sympathize with. You're thrown into this broken family, and a sister is just trying to fight as hard as she can to get her missing brother back. They don't add a lot more to that plot point, but I think that's something that anybody can really sympathize with, and you don't hate the characters that you're watching. I wanted to see her get her brother back. It's simple, but I did at least enjoy that these characters are at least characters I enjoyed watching this time. And lastly, I think they do fix the issue of the CGI blood. Personally, I didn't notice any CGI blood. I think they have really decent practical effects utilized in this movie. Nothing too crazy or over the top. All the carnage and gore, from what I could tell, was done practical. And as you guys know, here at ZakIsCinema, we always appreciate that. Let's jump into my negatives here. Now, I'll preface this. I feel like I'm a lot more forgiving on slasher movies, especially going into this. I wasn't expecting a whole lot. I go to them to see the carnage, see the gore, and have some fun along the way. I got most of that, so I feel like I'm a little bit more forgiving. My first negative here is one of my biggest issues with the TCU is how serious they take themselves. I mentioned in my positive, they do kind of fix that a little by introducing some of the more whimsical aspects of Peter Pan, but I feel like they never reach that level that these movies should be going for. I mean, you have access to these fairy tale Disney characters, yet they don't play around with any of that. Peter Pan's not that intimidating of a villain. Like I mentioned with pixie dust heroin, they do a couple things where you're like, okay, you guys aren't taking it that serious this time, which is good. I think overall the tone is still so dark. Peter Pan is so serious. I just think these tones need a little bit lighter of a feel and to not take themselves so seriously. It is a slasher movie, but that's really the only type of kill that you get in this movie, unfortunately. There's really no creativity, again, with taking themselves too seriously and not playing around with the lore as much as they could. I thought they were going to have Peter Pan flying around, slicing people's necks and stuff. You don't get that. You get just a lot of vicious stabbings, and after the first two, I was kind of already over that type of kill, and that's really all it provides to you. It does look good, the effects look good, but again, no real creativity in a lot of these kills, unfortunately. With any slasher movie, this one you definitely get some dumb characters that do make decisions that just kind of pull you out of it. Another negative I had here is there's really no explanation to Peter Pan's plan or reasoning he's choosing these kids. Again, not to get into spoilers, but he does make decisions to harm certain children, but not other children. And it never really explains what or why his reasoning really is. It just seems like one of our main characters was taken just because they happen to be the main character of this movie. There's no real lore or reason why he's choosing these characters, at least not one that I could really follow. There are some plot conveniences. We get another lore dumping character in this movie, of course. Luckily, none of ZakIsCinema's pet peeves of the online research scene, but you do get a plot point in here where they find a character that lore dumps a little bit to you. Like, you see that in so many movies, and this one is very egregious because they don't even really bother to explain how they found this character to begin with. The actress, the main character, just comes up and she's like, I found this character. He knows what's going on. Let's get some information. And then they go. Some lazy writing, some lazy plot conveniences throughout this movie. I did enjoy Peter Pan. I think he's easily better than Winnie the Pooh in those first two movies. But at times, I noticed this actor, I felt like he was doing like a bad Walmart bin version of Pennywise. Some of the way he talks and interacts with the characters and lures some of these children in did feel like a ripoff of Pennywise. I enjoyed that little bit of like whimsical energy that it brought, but it just reminded me so much of just someone trying to do a bad Pennywise impression. Like I briefly mentioned, I think this does have a really good third act, just the rest of the movie doesn't have that tension and kind of breakneck pacing that I wish it had all throughout. And lastly here, one of my biggest negatives is they just have a poor final girl. This final girl, there's nothing really to her. She doesn't really take charge and go on this big, grand character arc. Not that I was expecting, but maybe I was at least hoping that we'd get a final girl that I would like to show up in other TCU movies. You just don't get that here. They try to give her a little backstory and lore with her relationship problems, yet it's briefly mentioned once or twice in the beginning of the movie, and they never, ever bring it up again. It never comes back in the third act. It's like they totally forgot about it. You sympathize with her, right? Because her brother was just taken, but that's really about it. And that's really all you get for our main characters and our family here. There's not much to them. Honestly, overall, I feel like some of those negatives are easy to look past because this is just a dumb slasher movie with a Peter Pan skin over it, but I think it's a better version of it than maybe most people are expecting, or if you only saw like the first one, it's leagues better than our first outing here at the TCU. I think it definitely had more fun with this. I feel like each TCU movie so far is getting better, and this one is the best in my opinion. I think they got some poorly written characters like we talked about, a pretty simple plot, but it's easy to look past with its great pacing and pretty fun third act in my opinion. So I didn't hate this movie. I didn't really like it. I'm kind of in the middle here. For my rating for this movie, I have it as I won't look to ever buy this movie, not even if it's on sale. I'm not looking to rewatch this one. I'm good with the one-time watch, but honestly, I'm still curious. I will go see the other TCU movies just to see what they can cook up, see if they keep getting better, and I'm curious about that Avengers movie that they're all leading to. So I'm curious to check that out. Yes, you have my thoughts here on Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare. Let me know down below if you've seen this movie, what you think about it. Let me know your thoughts and feelings down below. Let me know what you guys think about the first two Blood and Honey movies. What were your opinions on those? Are you excited for the future of the TCU now? We got a bunch of new universes starting. Watch out, TCU. The TCU is getting better. Okay, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Really do appreciate anybody watching my videos, so thank you. Keep a lookout for more ZakIsCinema videos coming very soon.